word today. This is a passage you don't even have to open up your word for, but I just want you to see the words anyhow. Turn to Psalm 23. Somebody ought to be quoting that already. But we're going to be looking this morning at Psalm 23, just one verse out of Psalm 23. We're going to be looking at verse 4, verse 4, verse 4, verse 4, verse 4. When you see what's in verse 4 and you know how you have to encourage yourself. David is writing and he says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." I just want you to look at the person on your left or on your right, wherever you have somebody there, and just look at them and tell them, "I ain't scared." Now, if you want to be a sedity, dignified church today, you can look at them and say, "I have a mental and emotional constitution in which I do not have any fear in myself." Or you can look at them like you really say, "I ain't scared." I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I don't care what the boogeyman has got to say. I'm not scared. I'm talking this, you may take your seats this morning. We're talking this morning about the valley, the valley, the valley, the valley of the shadow of death, the place of danger and of fear, the valley, the valley. David is speaking this morning in this text from experience. He knows what it's like to be at a moment in your life where you feel as if all of the walls around you are beginning to close in on you. You find yourself at the bottom of the pit when all that is around you has hemmed you and enclosed you in. And you find yourself in a moment in which you feel as if you have no way out. That is what the valley represents. The valley is the place that is at the very bottom. A valley, you know, is a small ravine. It's a small area of passage at the bottom point of mountains that are surrounding it. It's a place where it's at the very bottom, where there is mountains and danger all around. The walls that are on either side of you are so high that they can't be scaled. And the valley that you are in is so narrow that you have very little room to move from the right or to the left. The valley is that place that because of the height of the mountains, there is darkness, darkness, darkness. For there is very little sunlight that can enter into the valley because it is blocked from every side. It's treacherous going, and it's treacherous, full of fear and surrounding. It is absent of light, and it is full of danger and peril. The valley is that place that is full of all manner of danger, both from animal and personal, both natural and predatory. In the valley, it is full of danger. It is full of danger. You are surrounded by times of darkness and times of shadows, and the way is treacherous. It's full of potholes. It's full of traps. It's full of dangerous and wild animals. It's the valley, the valley, the valley. You try to climb it, but you can't get up high enough to get over it. And there's only one way to move, and that is straight forward. The valley, the valley, the valley. Every one of us have and will experience those moments in our lives in which we find ourselves in the valley, the place of no escape, the place of danger, the place of fear, the place of darkness, the place that tries the souls of men. The valley is the place that will test your faith. It is the test, it is the place that will test your confidence in God. It is the place that will test your endurance and your level of courage. It is the place that will cause you to generate and encourage yourself. Because it is the valley, it is the valley, it is the valley. The valley, in one sense, is just the norm of our everyday lives, because there's been a lie that's been perpetrated in the world that makes us feel as if this is the place in which you can find all joy. But this is not your home. We know that because Jesus said that I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. This is not your final home. And some of us are living as if we are trying to prepare eternity for ourselves. We're trying to set in stage for a place where we can live with longevity. We are acting as if earth is our home. But no, in many ways, the valley is our time that we spend down here, because anything that is below what we know of as heaven is a valley. It is a place of darkness. It is a place of limits. It is a place of fear and a place of strange and moving spirits. It is the place where all things gather together to cause us to be unencouraged. It is the low place of life. It is the valley. But the valley are also those moments in life that we can't escape. They are those difficult times that exist from time to time. They are those moments that we find ourselves in holes that we can't get out of, ropes that are too short for us to climb, darkness that is too dark for us to be able to see. There are those moments that we feel helpless, we feel alone, and we feel as if we have no hope. David is saying for us, yea, though I walk through the valley, the valley that is of the shadows of death. How many of you have been in those moments in life that you feel that you are in the darkness and the depth of a valley, where all around you are reasons to fear and reasons to be discouraged? And you cry out to God, and it seems as if your prayers are hitting the ceiling of the room that you are in and are not able to reach the tops of the mountains that surround the valley, those inescapable realities of life, those shadows of darkness that are surrounding us, those times of difficulty that will come in the course of life. Jesus was very real with us when he said that in this world you will have tribulation. In this world are going to be times of difficulty. I know that they told you when you came down to the altar and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit of God gave the utterance. When you went down in the pool of water, I know they told you that at that moment everything would be made new, that God was on your side, that you are more than conquerors in him that loved us, that every day of your life was going to be a day of joy, of wealth, and of peace, and of prosperity. I know they told you that you had the victory in Christ. I know that they told you that you are more than conquerors in him that loved us. And all of those things are true. But the one thing that they didn't tell you was that you were going to, at some moment in your life, have to experience the valley. The valley. That time of darkness, that time of reality, that time in which your faith is tried, that time of testing, the time in which you seem to be all alone with yourself. Well, you're never all alone with yourself in the valley, because I can tell you there is one companion. There is one companion, the one that you won't want, the one who is always reminding you that seems as if all hope is lost. The devil is always there in the middle of the valley. Oh, how do I know that's true? Because he was was there with Jesus. There was a time in which Jesus was in the wilderness and he was fasting and he was praying because of the calling that God had in his life. And while he was moving through and trying to consecrate himself, trying to strengthen himself, trying to encourage himself, trying to connect with him and the Father in heaven to get the power that he was going to need for the next 3+ years of his life, there was a companion that was with him, one that came to be there. There was a voice that he heard from, but it was not the voice that he wanted to hear from. It was the voice of the tempter. And I am letting you know today that whenever you find yourself at the bottom of the valley, there is always going to be that voice. There's always going to be that voice of doubt, that voice of fear, that voice of discouragement, that voice that tries to convince you that all hope is lost, that voice that tries to convince you that this is the end. There's always going to be that one voice that tries to get you to take matters into your own hands. There's always going to be that doubter, that hater, that person who's trying to be a fear mongerer. There's always going to be that negative voice that is on the inside of you. Anytime you're going through the valley, you might as well prepare yourself for it, because you are going to face that trial. You're going to face that devil. You're going to face that demon of discouragement. He's going to be there. It's going to be there. They're going to make themselves real. And you've got to face that moment of inescapable discouragement when you are down in the valley. There is a way that the valley is described. It says that yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. What is a shadow? A shadow is a reflection of whatever is blocking the light. Oh, you didn't get that. You didn't get that. You didn't get that. A shadow is the reflection of whatever is trying to block the light that is in your life. Oh, you haven't gotten that yet. You haven't gotten that yet. You haven't gotten that. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Then he looked at you and said that ye are the lights of the world. A city which is set upon a hill that cannot be hid. So let your light so shine among men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Now remember what a shadow is. A shadow is that which is trying to block, an image of that which is trying to block the light. The shadow comes when there is something that is shining down, and whatever it is in the way of the light. But what it does is it creates an image that you can see. Shadows are scary. Shadows can look funny. Have you ever made hand shadows with your fingers because your hand was in the way of the light and all you could see is the reflection of whatever it was that you were trying to form? A shadow is a scary thing. A shadow is something that can cause fear. A shadow, however, is not real. It is not tangible. Shadows cause us fear because we don't know what to do with shadows. Shadows let us know that there is something out there that is blocking the light. Shadows are the reality that we are not alone. There's something that is trying to keep the light from us. Shadows are that thing that makes it difficult for us to know what to deal with. If it was a person, you would know what to do with it. You can't put your hands around the neck of a shadow. You can't talk about and cuss out and fight a shadow. A shadow doesn't hear. A shadow doesn't run. You can't kick a shadow. You can't throw a shadow down. You can't put your dukes up with the shadow. You can try to box the shadow, but you're hitting nothing but empty air. You can cuss and fuss all you want, but the shadow does not hear. A shadow is there to cause you to be scared. A shadow is there to cause you to not see. A shadow is there to remind you that you are in a place of darkness. And the light has been blocked from the light. The Lord is your light. And whenever there is a shadow, it is a sign of something that is trying to block the Lord out of your life. We are the lights, and whenever there is a shadow, it is a sign of something that is trying to block your effectiveness in the world. Wherever there are a shadow that you find in the midst of the valley, that is the devil trying to discourage you, trying to cause you to doubt, trying to cause you to rethink that you have no effectiveness, that God is not going to use you, that God has no purpose for you. It's trying to block your light. The devil is there to try to get you to focus on the image of the shadow rather than focus on the light that God has given you. You see, God is our light. The Word is the revelation of that light. We are the lights that carry forth the revelation that was given to us by the Word, which is shined down from God out of heaven. But the shadow wants to block the Lord from the world. The shadow wants to block the revelation of His Word from the world. The shadow wants to block your effectiveness at delivering that Word unto the world. The shadow is trying to get you to focus on it and not what God has given you. Satan desires to block the Lord and the Word, and those of us that know how to preach and teach what the Lord has given to us. The shadows are difficult to deal with. The second thing that we have to understand about the valley is that you've got to deal with the valley. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with it. Valleys can't be prayed away. They can't be fasted away. They can't be shouted away. Valleys can't be tongue-talked away. Valleys can't be run around the church away. Valleys have to be dealt with. The only way you're going to get to it, Minister Myron just said it, you got to walk through it. Valleys are not going to go away. You've got to make your way through it. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. The only way you're going to get out of the valley is you've got to walk through the valley. Tongue talking is not going to shorten your stay in the valley. Tongue talking is not going to make your valley disappear. Shouting is not going to make the valley disappear. Praying all you want is not going to make the valley go away. The only way you are ever going to make that valley go away is you've got to walk through it. Jesus, when he was in the garden, he knew that. He was in the garden the night before he died, and he was seeing the vision of the valley. And he began to cry out and pray, Father, if it be thy will, let this cup pass. But then he realized that his prayers were not going to take away the valley. His crying was not going to take away the valley. Even his blood sweat even his tears sweating with blood was not going to take away the valley. In spite of how much the Father loved him, it was not going to take away the valley. And so finally he had to come to the conclusion, Father, not my will, but thy will be done. He didn't get out of the valley. He had to. But the one thing I want to let you know this morning is that there is victory on the other side of the valley. Valleys have their length. Valleys have their duration. Valleys have their end. But while you're down there in the midst of the valley, you've got to endure. You've got to be patient. You've got to have no fear. You've got to have confidence. You've got to learn how to endure your time in the valley. How do you face your time in the valley? He says the valley must be faced with courage. The psalmist said, I will fear, but you've got to have the confidence of love and of a sound mind in tricks on you. When you are down there in the darkness and the light is dim, your mind begins that sooner or later help is on the way. Sooner or later, if you just keep moving, sooner or later, if you just keep praying, sooner or later, if you just keep fasting, sooner or later, if you just keep tongue talking, sooner or later, if you just keep running around the church, God will show up. And you said, preacher, you just contradicted yourself. You said that tongue talking can't make the valley go away. You just said that fasting can't make the valley go away. You just said that running around the church can't make the valley go away. You just said that laying hands on can't make the valley go away. And I am absolutely right. They will not make the valley go away, but they will encourage you to make it while you're in the midst of the valley, while you're down there walking through the valley. You've got to pray. Prayer gives you the strength. Prayer gives you the confidence while you're down there in the midst of the valley. You need to speak in another language. Those tongues aren't for the valley. Those tongues are to edify you. While you're going through the bottom of the valley, you've got to start running around the church. Why? Because while you're running around, you're building up energy. You're building up stamina. You're encouraging yourself. You're showing your confidence. You're showing your resolve. You're letting the devil know that you will not be defeated. While you're down there in the midst of the valley, if you just get your dance on, if you just get your praise on, if you just get your shout on, it ain't touching the valley, but it's touching you. And sooner or later, you'll forget about the valley. You'll forget about the shadows. You'll forget about the signs. You'll begin to be encouraged in the Lord. The shouting isn't for your valley. Your shouting is for you. Your shouting is to encourage you. Your shouting is to lift you up. Your prayer is to lift you up. Your tongue talking is to edify you. You need something while you're down there in the midst of the valley. That's how you get out of the valley. You keep on walking. When you're down there in the midst of the valley, don't sit on your praise. Don't sit on your service. Don't get tired. Don't give up. You just keep on working. That's what the psalmist said. He said, yea, though I walk. That means you've got to keep on moving. You see, when you are down there in the midst of the valley, something happens. It's a thing called depression. When you're down there in the midst of the valley, you begin to get depressed. And what do you do when you get depressed? You begin to sit and do nothing. When you get depressed, you become inactive. When you get depressed, you just sit around and start feeling sorry for yourself. But that is not what David said. While you're down there in the midst of the valley, don't sit down in the midst of your valley. Don't relax in the midst of your valley. Don't lay down and try to sleep your valley away. You can't eat your valley away. You can't sin your valley away. You can't do nothing and make your valley go away. The one thing you gotta do is you gotta get up and begin to walking. You gotta get up and begin to moving. You gotta get up and begin to running. You gotta get up and begin to let the devil know that you aren't giving up. This is not the end. You're going to fight. You're not going to quit. You're going to get up and be empowered. You've got to begin to walk. Yea, though I walk, even though I'm in the valley, I'm still walking. I'm trying to find the end, but in the meantime, I'm still walking. I know that there is an end. I'm still walking. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I ain't worried about what's around me because I'm passing what's around me. The shadow is there. I'm just walking past it. The danger is there. I'm just walking past it. The trial is there. I'm just walking past it. The financial difficulty is there. I'm just walking past it. I'm keeping on moving. I'm keeping on active. I'm trying to find a solution. I'm looking for a way out. I'm searching here and I'm searching there. I'm pulling up this tree and I'm looking around that tree. I'm trying to find my end. I'm walking. I'm walking. I'm walking. But while you're walking, you got to be courageous. While you're walking, you've got to fear no evil. There are things around you that are trying to get you down, but you just keep talking. You just recognize that you've been given a power, that Holy Ghost power, that power that is a spirit of courage. The Holy Ghost inside of you gives you everything you need to be able to have the courage to walk it through. You've got to be resilient, because you've got to know that when you're walking in the valley of the shadow of death, if you have no fear, if you keep on walking, you will find out that there is somebody who was walking there with you. He says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why are you not fearing no evil? Because there is somebody who is with me. Who is that person that is with me? It's not the devil. Oh, he's there, but he's just a shadow. He said, thou art with me. Who is the thou? It is the Lord who is my shepherd. It is the Lord who is my caretaker. He is the Lord who is my waymaker. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. That's how I know that the Lord is there. That's how I know that the shepherd is there, because they have the signs of the shepherd. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Well, what is the rod that comforts me? The rod is that long stick that is carried by the shepherd. It is a stick that is used to fight away the enemy. It is the stick that is used to fight away the wolves. It is a stick that is used to fight away the lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. It is a stick that is used to cause fear in the enemy. But there is another purpose of the stick. Leviticus tells us that they had to count the sheep by the rod. The sheep is used to give an account. In the book, they had to separate their lambs for the tithe. And the way they separated their tenth that they were giving back to God is that they had to walk past the rod. And as they walked past the rod, they were being counted. The rod is to let you know that God has got you counted, that God has got you accounted for, that God knows where you are. God knows you are his offering. God knows exactly who you are. He counts every hair that falls off your head. He picks up every tear that comes down from your eye. Your God knows who you are. Your God knows where you are. You haven't gotten lost in the crowd. You aren't out there by yourself. Your God is with you. And you know that because you walk by the rod that lets you know that there is someone there who can take care of the enemy. You don't have to take care of him yourself. He'll take care of him with his rod. But not only is there a rod, there is also a staff. That is the shepherd's crook, that long stick that has the hook on the end and the little notch on the end. That long stick that as you're walking, as you're making your way, and you walk upon a hole, but you can't see it because it's dark. You're walking at a hole. You're walking at a ditch. You're walking at a pit, but you can't see it because you're focused on the shadow. The shepherd takes that hook and he puts it around your neck and he pulls you back in. Oh, your God has made a way for you. He's getting you out of danger. Sometimes we get distracted by the shadows. Sometimes we get distracted while we're in the dark. Sometimes we get distracted because we can't see where we're going. But there is a God in heaven who is always watching out, and he will not lose one of his sheep. Oh, your God promised that those that God has given him, he would not lose any of them. His rod is always there. Even if you fall down into the pit, his rod is long enough to reach down into the pit and pull you back out. Yeah, you may have failed. Yeah, you may have been discouraged. Yeah, you may have fallen down. Yeah, you may have given up. But the rod of God is always there to pick you back up again. That's what perseverance is. That's what it means to endure. That's what it means to never quit. That's what it means to never lose your faith. Whenever that rod comes down, you grab hold of it and you allow your shepherd to pull you up again. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. They comfort me. And the reason why I'm able to be comforted